Hello guys, I am Dr. Devendra Mishra, working as Assistant Professor in Chemistry at Bidla Institute of Applied Sciences, right? Also running this Tetrahedron Chemistry Classes channel, and here are the links available to approach me. Hello friends, welcome back to the Tetrahedron Chemistry Classes. So guys, in the continuation of transition metal organometallic series, right? So today I am going to take my next lecture, which is the lecture number 8C, and today I'll discuss the metal carbonyl hydrides. If you remember, in the last class I have discussed metal carbonylates, okay? And today I'll discuss these metal carbonyl hydrides. These hydrides are very important, right? Because in last actually 1 or 2 decades, much of the attention would be given, right? Much of the attention was given to the metal carbonyl hydrides, right? They are very important. So obviously they are important for your competitive examinations also, especially when it comes to the CSIR net and for the GATE examinations. Okay, so as you can see here, the name suggests the metal carbonyl hydrides. So what is the meaning of that? Whatever the hydrogen is present in your metal carbonyls, it will be present as the negative species. So you should remember, since these are the hydrides, so the hydrogen would be present as the negatively charged species, and it is quite obvious because hydrogen has much more electronegativity than the transition metal elements, right? So these metals are actually less electronegative and hydrogen is more electronegative. Obviously it would gain a negative charge. That mean a shared pair of electron it would get. But this hydride chemistry is quite confusing, since in metal carbonyls this hydrogen is present as the hydrides, but sometimes we can remove this hydrogen as the proton, so they are acidic also. So in some way actually these metal carbonyl hydrides are quite difficult in understanding. On the one hand, we are saying that the hydrogen is present as the negatively charged species, and again on the other hand we will explain, and we explain generally the acidic behavior of these species. Okay, so we will see all these things one by one, right? So you can see here what I have written here. Metal carbonyl hydrides, actually these metal carbonyl hydrides are the conjugate acids of the carbonylate ions. If you can recall my last lecture on the metal carbonylate ions, that means the species would have the negative charge. Transition metal carbonyls, right? You may have the 4 carbonyls, you may have the 5 or the 6 carbonyls with a negative charge over there. That means the metal in the negative oxidation state when it comes to the metal carbonylates. So you can see here, this is the metal which is present here. I have written the general formula, and these are the carbonyl groups. 5 carbonyls are present, though I can write N also instead of this 5, but somehow I have managed to write 5, right? And it's a negatively charged species, so it's this compound is metal carbonylate. Okay, and when I treat this metal carbonylate with dilute acid, H3O positive, it represents the acid, any kind of acid I can take. So the reaction would what reaction would happen here? The proton exchange reactions. This H3O positive will provide hydrogen to this one, and it will result into HMCO5. Okay, one negative is there, and this hydrogen is present as the negatively charged species. As I already told you, this hydrogen is much more electronegative than your metal, so it will have the negative sign. Okay, so and again you can see the water molecule release through this reaction. So since this metal carbonylate is accepting a proton, so it's a Bronsted base, right? And this acid is providing H positive, so it's a Bronsted acid. So it's a Bronsted acid base pair, and when they react, then this base will have the conjugate acid, right? Because now it will actually donate the proton to this one. Okay, and if I write the reaction in that manner, though it is essential actually to show the equilibrium between them. Okay, so when these two react, the reverse reaction would occur. If I can take a pair of this one, right, this base, okay, and this acid, so it's a what? Conjugate acid base pair. So this is your metal carbonyl hydride. This metal carbonyl hydride is the conjugate acid of the metal carbonylate base, which I have written here. Conjugate acids of carbonylate ions are metal carbonyl hydrides. So this is how we can write the general expression. And then you can see how we can synthesize these compounds. So there are various methods available, right? But I'll discuss very important, chronologically, the most important synthesis method I will explain first, and then I'll move to the other methods, right, which are again very important for your competitive examinations. Okay, so first method I am taking in this lecture is oxidative addition, right? That means the metal would undergo the oxidation and the and you will add certain thing to the complex. So addition would also be there in the complex, and the oxidation state of the metal would also increase. That's why the method is known as the oxidative addition. And on the other hand, you can write this method direct addition of hydrogen to the carbonyl complex. So you will take the carbonyl complex this time and you will add hydrogen to it to get the metal carbonyl hydrides, and the process is known as the oxidative addition. So I'll take this example from the Vasca's complex, right? You know this Vasca complex are very important, so I can write the formula of this Vasca complex. This is IRCOCl, and then you will have your triphenyl phosphine, and your triphenyl phosphine would present twice here. So this is your Vasca's complex. This carbonyl is neutral, okay, and see, this triphenyl phosphine is also neutral, and chlorine is actually negatively charged species. So in that case, you can see your iridium is in +1 oxidation state, and this I have already explained to you. Whenever you take this Vasca's complex, then iridium is in +1 oxidation state. So what you can do, you can add hydrogen to this Vasca complex to get the carbonyl hydrides, right? So how I can explain this reaction? So you can see, you can write IR here, and then you can add triphenyl phosphine here, PPH3, and this is the chlorine which is present here, and again this is your triphenyl phosphine, okay? The bonding is through phosphorus, okay, not through this carbon, and this is your carbonyl, right? This is your Vasca's complex, and here you can see it is in +1 oxidation state. There is no problem in that. And what you can do, you can straight away add hydrogen to it. Of course, there would be certain conditions of temperature and pressure, but I am writing as such, okay? So what will happen, it will result in the transition state, a certain kind of the transition state, and that transition state you can write in that manner. You can write iridium here, and this transition state I am writing as such, right? I am giving 2 hydrogens, right? And this is your PPH3, triphenyl phosphine, and this is again PPH3. There is no problem in that, okay? And then this is your, say, carbonyl, and this is your chlorine. So don't confuse in the positions of these triphenyl phosphine and chlorine and carbon. They should maintain the bond angle. Say here you can see these two are at 180 degree. Here also these two are at 180 degree. Okay. So this is how you can write. But it's a square planar complex, right? It's a square planar complex, and it's the transition state, right? And then this hydrogen would be just like that. So this is the transition state, right? And what you can observe here in this transition state, there is a formation of the 3-membered ring, and for the formation of this 3-membered ring, it is very important that these 2 hydrogens must occupy the cis position. And if you have followed my coordination chemistry lecture where I have explained the geometrical isomerism, then I will explain to you in that particular lecture, whenever the 2 ligands actually are at 90 degree, so they are cis to each other. Right? These 2 are actually trans because they are at 180 degree angle. This hydrogen and this carbon is also trans because it is at 180 degree, and this chlorine and this hydrogen is also trans because they are at 180 degree angle. But you can see these 2 can form, these 2 are forming 90 degree angle, so they are cis. So if you haven't seen that particular lecture of stereoisomerism in coordination compounds, so you must go through that particular lecture. What you can do, you can write in the YouTube stereoisomerism of coordination compounds by tetrahedron chemistry classes, then you will get that result. And I will also provide the link in the lecture in the description box also. You can go there. This is the transition state, and after that what will happen? Since this transition state will have the higher energy, it's an unstable state. Due to this instability, this will get break, and you will have this compound iridium here, and you have one hydrogen is here, another hydrogen is here, and these are the triphenyl phosphines PPH3, and again PPH3, and then your chlorine, and then your carbonyl, right? This structure you will have then. Okay, and in that case you can see here, since you have added two hydrogens which are negatively charged, as I already told you, this iridium is less see, hydrogen is always more electronegative, so hydrogen is present as negative species here, right? This is very important to understand. And this hydrogen is also negative, and this chlorine is also negative. It obviously indicates that your iridium is in +3 oxidation state in that case, right? And you have actually converted this Vaska complex into your metal carbonyl hydrides. And what are the features actually associated with this one? See, if you see here, your iridium was in +1 oxidation state, and due to this reaction it gets converted into the +3 oxidation state. So it is the process of the oxidation. Increase in the oxidation number is the oxidation, right? And also you are adding two hydrogen to it, right, to get this particular complex. So it's a oxidative addition reaction. Okay, and if you can see here, what you can do here, the coordination number is 4 in that case, but in that case coordination number is 6. Okay, and then if you can see here, it's a 16 electron species. You can count the electron, right? And it's an 18 electron species. In that case, the hybridization would be DsP2, and in that case, the hydrogen would be D2sp3, right? In a inner orbital complex, or you may have the sp3d2 also. So it will not make any difference in that case, unless you have unless the question paper asked about the nature of these complexes. But you can write it may either D2sp3 or sp3d2. So these are the changes actually which is going on, right, due to this reaction of Vaska's complex with the hydrogen. And in that case, you know, it would be your octahedral geometry. Okay, and this would be your square planar geometry. So I am writing the SP for the square planar geometry. So this is how you can actually prepare, right? And one more thing which you will remember here, if you have actually the 4D and the 5D, see, if you see this iridium is the 5D metal, right? How you can explain this? This is a 5D metal. So guys, you can see here, I have already explained this thing. This is iron, this is cobalt, this is nickel, and the iron group is ruthenium and osmium, cobalt group is rhodium and iridium, and nickel group is PD and platinum, right? So see, for this actually, for learning these transition metal series, I have devised a mnemonic, right? And you can use that mnemonic, and then you can very easily learn that transition series very easily, and you will never forget. If you haven't seen that particular lecture, so I'm giving you the link in the description also, right? So it should be remembered, right? So this was your 3D, fine. This is 4D, and this one is the 5D. So whenever you have the 4D and the 5D series transition metal complexes, TM complexes, transition metal complexes, okay, and if they are coordinatively unsaturated. What is the meaning of the coordinatively unsaturated? That means the coordination number is not 6. So here the coordination number is 4. So it is coordinatively unsaturated, and it is the transition metal complex of the 5D metal series. Whenever you react these actually 4D and 5D transition metals with the hydrogen, then you will always have di substitution. Di substitution means the two hydrogens which you are actually reacting with this Vaska's complex, they will occupy the two positions, and the complex will convert from square planar to the say octahedral complex, right? So these things you should remember. It's very, very important, and it is again very important since you are forming this three-membered say ring in the transition state, and for the formation of this three-membered ring, it is essential that these two hydrogen must be cis to each other. Okay, so this is the one method to prepare this metal carbonyl hydrates. But see, you may have another example also. For example, say you can take this particular complex. Say this is my cobalt, so this is the part 2, right? Not cobalt, carbonyl group. They are present 5 times, right? And manganese is there, okay? And you have this dimer type of thing, right? So this is the complex actually, and you are reacting this with hydrogen H2, so I can write H2 in that manner, H and H, okay? So what they can form, say you can break this particular bond, you can break this particular bond, supply one hydrogen to this manganese, supply one hydrogen to this manganese, then what it would result, H MnCO5 2 times. So here you can see only one hydrogen is substituted over manganese, while in the earlier case we have seen that two hydrogen get substitution. So this is single hydrogen substitution, and single hydrogen substitution would take place whenever actually you will have the first transition series, while in case of this 4D and 5D you may have the di substitution depending upon the other conditions like coordinatively unsaturated and all these things, okay? So if you see this particular method here, again it's a oxidation, right? How it is oxidation? Because all carbonyls are neutral, so manganese was in zero oxidation state here. But when you move to this particular complex, so manganese will get the +1 of oxidation state, say for example, okay? So it is the oxidation of the manganese which is going on, and the cleavage of this complex has also occurred. So this is actually what? Oxidative cleavage. So what you can write this, oxidative cleavage, okay? You can write this as oxidative cleavage. So this is the first method of preparing transition metal metal carbonyl hydrides. Okay, now I'll discuss the second method. So guys, my second method is acidification of the carbonylate ions. So what I'll do here, I'll take the carbonylate ions, right, transition metal carbonylate ions, and then I'll acidify these carbonylates to get the hydride. So what kinds of the acid you can use? You may take any acid from strong to weak acid, right? Even acid weaker than water can also do wonder in these reactions. So you can take any acid, right? Dilute sulfuric acid, okay? Dilute HCl, you can take anything. And say you can take methanol also, and you may take water also, okay? Sorry, not water, ethanol. I'm not taking water precautionary. As you know, these transition metals are very sensitive towards water, so I'm not intentionally mentioning water here. But you should remember these methanol and ethanol, see, they are actually, if you see the pKa values of them, then definitely you can find the nature of the acid, whether it is weaker than water or not. So but I'm telling you that you can use the acids which are weaker than the water, and these reagents can also do wonders in these reactions, okay? So first of all I am preparing neutral hydrides, okay? Neutral hydrides. So I am writing in short neutral hydrides, but remember they are neutral transition metal carbonyl hydrides. You should remember this thing. And the reaction you can write, see, this is general reaction, M is here, and say 5 carbonyls are here, and metal carbonylate. So this is the metal carbonylate, and I am reacting this metal carbonylate with any acid, okay? And once you react this with acid, then it will get converted into HMCO5 along with a water molecule, okay? And then you can see here your hydride would result. And see this hydride is neutral because there is no charge over there, so it's a neutral hydride. And if you want to prepare the neutral hydride, I have written this general equation here, but you can remember, you can take any of these metal. You can take manganese, you can take your iron, you can take your rhenium, any metal you can take, okay? And these can react. And in that case, if you want to prepare actually the neutral metal hydrides, generally, not strictly, coordination number should be 5 in that case. So very quickly, not necessarily, but right? Not necessarily, but it may 4 also, right? But for these metals actually, right, manganese, iron and rhenium, in that case the coordination number generally 5, but it may also it may also fall to 4. So it is not necessary that the coordination number will always be 5. However, in certain books you can see here they write generally equation in that form and then write the coordination number 5, but it will not make any sense actually. Okay, so you can take some examples, right? Say I am having cobalt and tetracarbonyl cobaltate. I am having this metal carbonylate, okay, and I'm reacting this with acid, then definitely I'll have hydrogen, cobalt and tetracarbonyl along with the water. This is how you can write actually. Only one substitution is taking place here in that case. But if you have this, say you have iron tetracarbonyl, right, and say I'm writing 2 positive over there, and then not 2 positive, it should be 2 negative because I am taking the carbonylate ions. It should be 2 negative. And then if you acidify it, then the water molecule get released and you will have HFeCO4 with 1 negative over there, 1 substitution. If you continue this reaction like H3O positive, then again the water molecule will remove and you will have the dye substitution, HFeCO4. Of course, the change in the structure also, right? It is actually 4 coordinated, it is 6 coordinated, so it would be octahedral. And these structural changes are very, very important. As you can see here, the coordination number is 5, here coordination number 6. These structural changes are very important because they decide the acidity of these metal carbonyl hydrides. Okay, so this is something very, very important. So in that case also you can see there is no charge over there, no charge on the complex, so they are the neutral hydrides. So you can prepare these neutral hydrides by these reactions. Then you can go for the another kinds of the hydrides. Say number 2, anionic hydride formation or anionic hydrides. Simply you can write in that manner. So for see, you can take any example. See guys, it is very difficult to actually mug out to learn all these things because these organometallic compounds are quite vast. So you actually you cannot mug everything, but you may grasp certain idea. See what are the metal carbonylates, what are the hydrates, what are the chlorides, right? So there is no need to learn all kind of the reactions, right? But as much as possible for the examination point of view, you should actually learn certain things. Okay, so how we can synthesize these anionic hydrides? Say again, you can take the metal carbonylates. In that case, right, it is 2 negative, say, and you can take any acid. Now I am taking the weak acid, the methanol I am taking. In that case, if you take the methanol, then definitely you will have hydrogen here along with the chromium with coordination number 5, and you will have 1 negative over there. Why? Because you have supplied 1 positive from here. You know, this is positive, this is negative. So 1 positive will neutralize 1 negative, so it will get the 1 negative over there. Okay, and then you will have your methoxide ion, MEO negative. So this hydride is having the negative charge, that's why it is anionic hydride. Okay, and see, you may take another, acids also. Say for example, I am having this particular complex, a chromium tetracarbonyl chromate. See, in that case, negative 4. Okay, so you can take this combination also. You can take the liquid ammonia non-aqueous solvent, right? And it is always better to take the non-aqueous solvents when you synthesize the organometallic compounds, as they are sensitive towards the water and the air. And then you can take the NH4Cl. This combination you may take, and when this combination you take, then your bridged compounds are formed, bridged hydrides are formed. So how we can form the bridged hydride? So say this is hydrogen, this is hydrogen. Do 2 hydrogens you can write in that manner, and these hydrogen would produce from this combination. Okay, and it will form the bridge between this chromium, and you can write another chromium here. You can form the bridge. Okay, 4 carbonyls are there, so you can write the 4 carbonyl here, and you can write the 4 carbonyl here. And of course, since you have added 2 hydrogens over there, so it would be 2 negative, right? Because 2 positive will neutralize 2 negative, right? So it will result into the formation of the residual charge of the 2 negative over there. So this is the complex actually, right? Bridged complex when you take this compound actually. However, you can take another compound also to form the bridged one, okay? But you should remember this is also the combination which can produce the acid. And one more thing, if you take actually the metal carbonyl clusters, metal carbonylate clusters, then what would happen actually? Say for example, I'm taking say cobalt 6 times and my carbonyls 15 times. No need to draw the structure, okay? And here say 2 negative, so it is also the metal carbonylate, okay? And what you can do, you can acidify it, H positive you can take, and this will give you H CO6 CO15 and one negative over there, because one positive will neutralize one negative, okay? So it will result in that case. So you can say what is the speciality in that case. The speciality in that case is that this hydrogen which is here, which is present in this particular complex, this is actually encapsulated. So what is the meaning of the encapsulated? That means in this particular complex it's a cluster actually, so it will have the interstitial sites. So in this interstitial sites the hydrogen gets trapped, that's why it is called the encapsulated. And by doing this reaction actually you can produce encapsulated hydrogens which can be utilized in the various synthetic purposes, right? So if you want to draw the structure, so 6 metal is there, so you can write the 6 membered ring here, okay? And all these 6 points will have the 6 cobalts, 1 2 3 4 6 cobalt will there, and hydrogen gets trapped inside it, and of course it is connected with the 6th one, right? So this is the encapsulated hydrogen actually, right? This is hydride. So this is how you can prepare your anionic hydrides. Then after anionic hydrides you can go for the cationic hydrides. So I'm writing cationic hydrides. Okay, so how you can synthesize the cationic hydrides? So in that case you will use the very strong acid. Very strong acid you will need. Very strong acid you will need for this one, okay, for this to prepare actually. So how you can prepare? So the reaction you can write, say I am having this complex FeCO whole thrice PPH3 whole thrice. PPH3, you know, it's a triphenyl phosphine 2 times and carbon is 3 times, so coordination number you can check here, okay? And it's a neutral compound, say for example, you can acidify it, H positive, okay, right? So when you react with this H positive, you know the d orbitals are present here, okay? So they can donate electron to the hydrogen to get the bond actually. So you can write H Fe CO whole thrice PPH3 whole twice, okay? Since you have added H positive here, so you will get a positive over there. So this is the hydride which is cationic in nature. So you have prepared the neutral hydrides, okay? You have prepared your say anionic hydrides. Now you have also prepared your cationic hydrides. And one more example of this cationic hydride which is very important for the examination point of view, right? So you can take the cobalt here in the center, you can write cobalt here, and here PPH2 is another ligand and this is PPH2, okay? And 2 carbons are here, right? 1 carbon is here, 1 carbon is here, and then again write PPH2 here, and then again you can write PPH2 here, and 2 carbonyls here, okay, and will connect to this one, right? And of course over there one positive charge is there. So what is the meaning of the positive charge? Cobalt is having the +1 oxidation state. And then what you can do, you can actually react with this, this you can acidify it, right? Protonation, you can acidify it. So I'm writing H positive here, or say I'm taking HCl, say in that case. So if you take the HCl in that case, so cobalt, these are the groups I'm not drawing, these are the groups I'm not drawing, but this hydrogen will come here and this chlorine will come here, and of course one positive charge would over there, right? Because Cl is negative, H is positive. Okay, so if you add the one negative to it, so it will get neutralized, and if you add H positive to it, so it will get the positive charge. So in that case you can see the +1 is there, this hydride is -1, and this chloride is also -1, right? And when they go actually outside, so cobalt is in +3 oxidation state here. So here it was in +1 oxidation, not in, it was in, yes, +1 oxidation state because positive is there, and here you can see it is in +3 oxidation state. So oxidation is taking place due to this protonation. Okay, so this example again you can take, this is very important example, right? You may take the other salts also. Say for example, I'm having this complex like sodium, right, is present as cation ReCO5, and you are reacting this with HCl, okay, and then you can produce your compound minus NaCl, and your hydrogen would come here. So this is hydrogen, this is rhenium, and these are the 5 carbonyls. So this is how you can prepare your metal carbonyl hydrides. Okay, so this is something very important which you should know. Then we can go for certain things, certain other preparative methods. See, why actually I am explaining all the things, because I am explaining these lectures not only for the NET examination but also for the MSc students, right? And for the students who prepare for the PhD entrance examination. That's why it is essential for me to explain each and every method. As far as actually the literature I can collect, I'll deliver. So next method is what? By the reduction of the carbonyl complexes with the hydride donors. So this is sodium boron hydride, this is lithium aluminium hydride. You may take the hydroxide also. They can do wonder actually, right? So what kind of reactions may occur? Say for example, I am having this pentacarbonyl iron, okay, and I am taking LaH. Lithium aluminium hydride is a very famous strong reducing agent, right? This is H, this is Fe, this is CO4, okay, negative with the removal of the CO. So this lithium aluminium hydride actually has provided what? It provided the H negative ion, which I have written here. So if you want to know the mechanism, how it is actually happening, and it is important for your competitive exam also, very important one. Say I can write this example as just like that, mechanism. So I can write the mechanism first. Okay. 4 carbonyls I'll write here, and then 1 iron along with another carbonyl. So say this is the picture of this particular complex. And you know, in this complex this is polar part, so carbon is positive and electronegative oxygen is negative. And say you are using the lithium aluminium hydride. So what you can do? So I'm writing here aluminium, and this aluminium is having say 4H. This is H, this is H, and H again. Okay, there is no problem in that. And of course your lithium is present here as positively charged species, so aluminium is having actually the negative. Formal charge would be on the aluminium. So how the reaction goes? See, since this carbon is positively charged, so it will need 1 hydrogen. So I am giving this hydrogen to this one, And notice my curly arrow or my curved arrow. I have taken this bond also. That means this hydrogen has migrated along with its electron pair. And when this happens, this will come here. It will get a negative charge, and that negative charge will grab your lithium. Okay. And when this happens, then you will have this complex CO4, which is this one, iron double bond carbon, single bond O lithium, positive and negative. Okay. And this is the hydrogen which have migrated from which is migrated from this aluminium part. Okay. And then you will have this AlH3. This AlH3 actually is this one, and it will have the MTP orbital. Okay, because it has removed one hydrogen as negatively charged species, so you can call it this compound as alane, ALANE, alane. And this species is actually, you can see it is resonance stabilized, right? So you can write the resonance structure. This negative will move here and this will come here. Then you will have 4 carbonyls here along with this iron. Okay, and this is single bond. Now iron is negative, and this is double bond, right? And this is your hydrogen, and you can write minus Li positive. There is no problem in that. Okay, so this is what your anionic formyl complex, you know, this is the part of the formaldehyde HCHO, and H you have substituted with this part. So this is anionic in nature. Okay, and this is formyl complex, anionic formyl complex, and this is unstable complex. Okay, and it will readily lose carbon monoxide. Okay, you know carbon monoxide is what? Carbon triple bond oxygen, and right now only 2 double bond is there. So this negative charge actually will grab this hydrogen as proton, and this will go here. So this will make carbon triple bond oxygen, and this hydrogen would migrate from here to iron, and then you will have your species CO4 FeH, okay, with negative sign. Why? Right? Because it is having the negative charge over there. And finally, if you do the protonation of this one, H positive, then you may have this compound H2FeCO4. So this is how you can write the mechanism of this reaction when you actually do the reduction of the carbonyl complexes with the sodium borohydride, right? So guys, you can see here I have taken this lithium aluminum hydride, but you can start with this reaction with the sodium borohydride also. And see, this hydroxide can also provide hydrogen. So it's very important for examination point of view, right? So I'm writing this also. You can see this reaction. This hydroxide actually, it can also serve as the source of the hydrogen, right? If reaction occurs with, say, for example, I can write this, say, my second reaction I'm writing here. 5 carbonyls are here along with the chromium, double bond carbon, double bond oxygen, okay? And this time I am taking the hydroxide OH negative. You know, this negative will attack on this carbon, this will come here, okay? And your resulting species would be CO5, chromium double bond carbon, single bond oxygen, and here you are having OH, which you have attached here. And you know what will happen here? This will come back and this will come here. So the chromium would be negatively charged in that case. So when the chromium is negatively charged, what this chromium will do? That chromium will grab this hydrogen as positively charged species, and it will return that this particular bond to this carbon. And if you see here, carbon double bond oxygen, carbon double bond oxygen, that means straight away you can remove carbon monoxide. While in the earlier reaction you have removed the carbon monoxide, but if you take this hydroxide, then you have to remove the carbon dioxide, right? And then you will have your resultant compound CO 5 times chromium bridged between this hydrogen get actually forms bridged between these 2 chromiums, okay, and 1 negative over there. So this is how, see, this hydroxide can also provide the hydrogen. So these reactions are very important for you, okay, for examination point of view, entrance examinations point of view. And then my next method is what? Reduction of the sulfides. See where I have written. Okay. My next reaction is the reduction of the sulfide. So I can see, you can take MS type kind of thing, right? And you can take M2S. Okay. So where metal is 1 and metal is 2, you can take either of these two. So I'm taking the example of my cobalt sulfide, COS, and I'm reacting this cobalt sulfide with the hydrogen in the atmosphere of the carbon monoxide. Of course, very high pressure to atmosphere, 200 atmospheric pressure is required. At high temperature, 200 degrees centigrade, and copper. See, we will use the copper powder in that case. This copper powder is very important. This is HCO, this is the carbonyl hydride, and H2S. So this H2S gas actually can spoil your reaction. So what you can do, you can use the copper powder. So this copper powder actually is used to remove the H2S gas as the copper sulfide from here. Okay, so this is how you can write the reaction. Clear? There is no problem in that. So in that case you can write, or then you can take another example, reduction of the chlorides. You can also reduce the chlorides. Say for example, I am having this one, CP2. This is cyclopentadiene ion, right? The cyclopentadienyl ion, and this is the zirconium with 2 Cl2 here. And you can take any reducing agent. I am taking my favorite reducing agent, LaH, lithium aluminium hydride. So when you take this lithium aluminium hydride, then you will have this particular compound. This is hydride in the chloride form, okay, and one of the chlorine will knocked out from here. And then you can take the ruthenium complex also, Cl2, PPH3, 4 times, okay, and then your hydrogen, and then you will have your hydrogen with RuCl, one of the Cl gets knocked out. This is PH3 3 times, and your PH3. So these are the some of the very important synthetic methods to produce the metal carbonyl hydrides. Okay guys, so now we have completed that synthesis part. Now I'm going to explain some of the properties of the metal carbonyl hydrides, right? And these the property of these metal carbonyl hydrides are very important. Okay, so first of all, you can see here I'm going to explain the acidic nature, and this is the most complicated part in that case. Say this is hydrogen, this is metal, okay, and say you are having certain number of carbonyl groups. So I am writing CO, 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 CO. I am writing 4 of them only, okay. So you know this metal is less electronegative, right, and this hydrogen is more electronegative. So actually this part is slightly negative and this part is positive, okay. And you know these carbonyls they are very strong electron withdrawing group. They are very strong electron withdrawing group. So what these carbonyls can do, they can withdraw the electron density towards themselves, making this metal more positive. And when it becomes more positive, then the polarization would occur in that case. So due to these 4 ligands, this bond actually will get the polarization. So polarized bond, okay. And when this is polarized, then it is actually it has been observed that this hydrogen can be removed as a positively charged species here from here to give the acidic nature to the metal carbonyl hydrides. However, it actually looks very weird. Then it looks very weird. Then when you say this is the negatively charged species and you are defining the acidic nature of this one. But this happens. It happens in the aqueous medium. It happens in the alcoholic medium, right? It happens everywhere. So see what you can do. I can give you the two examples. Say I am having this particular complex, right? This is one of the hydride, and you may take this vanadium compound also, right? These two hydrides are there. And see, if you dissolve them in methanol, for example, if you dissolve them in methanol, okay, so they behave as the acid, right? So actually they behave as stronger acid than your nitric acid. So you can see here, when you dissolve these compounds in the methanol, it gives them to the acidic nature, and that acidic nature is quite high when it compares to the HNO3. However, these two are less acidic than HCl in your methanol, right? So this is how you can write. And see, you may take one more example also. Say I'm having this complex HRE CO5 times, okay, this complex. So this can also provide H positive, but this is weak acid. This behaves as the weak acid, and this reflects in their pKa value, okay. And now the question comes, okay, you are defining the acidic nature with the help of the polarity concept, right? And these can actually, this methanol and some water can abstract this hydrogen as the proton from here. It will give the acidic nature to these complexes. But there is not any clear idea or clear concept by which you can explain the acidity trend. For this you have to actually look for the kinetic and the thermodynamic data. Research paper has been published in 1973 based on this one, right? So it is not possible for me especially to actually give you the exact idea, exact trend, and the exact concept to decide the acidity, but you can remember some of the facts actually. And see, one more thing which actually I want to give here. See, if you have the two hydrides, like you are having the terminal hydrides. Say for example, you are having terminal carbonyl hydrides, right? Where you are hydrides, okay, let me correct it, hydride. Then in that case the hydrogen would present in the terminal positions, and then you may have the bridged carbonyl hydrides, BRIDGET, bridged carbonyl hydrides. I'm writing H negative for this one. So when this happens, actually you have the same metal, then you are actually bridged carbonyl hydrides, they are the more acidic one. So they are more acidic in nature, right? And why this happens, what is the logic, right? I couldn't find in any textbook, and I'm not able to explain all these things, right? But you can remember this concept. Actually you may have the question based on this one. So this is something very, very important. And then of course one more trend you can see here. Say for example, I'm having this complex hydrogen MnCO5, this complex, and then I have this one, okay, Tc, not Te, it is Tc, CO5 tactinium, okay, and then I am having my rhenium complex. Say I am having these complex. So it has been observed that when you move down the group, then the acidity decreases. It has been observed. And why this happens, you know, this belongs to the 4D and this belongs to the 5D. So, and you know, the 4D and the 5D orbitals are actually much more diffused, and this diffusion of electrons actually increases the bond strength between these two. And when this happens, actually then it is difficult to remove this hydrogen as proton, and the acidity decreases. This is something very, very important which you should remember, which you should learn. And another important aspect actually, say you have sigma donor ligands. You may take any example of the sigma donor ligands. like cyclopentadienyl anion and your phosphines. Phosphines means triphenyl phosphine and all. Sorry for my bad handwriting, guys. Okay, they actually reduces the acidic nature, reduces the acidity of transition metal carbonyl hydrides. Okay, right? Because they actually strengthen this particular bond, and the removal of this hydrogen as proton would difficult in that case. But if you have the pi acceptor ligands, pi acceptor ligand. So if you don't know the if you don't have any idea about the pi acceptor or the pi acidic or the sigma donor ligands, you can go through my lecture of the coordination chemistry series where you can find this one, and I'll also provide the link in the description box also. When this happens actually, like in that case you can see pi they say for example pi acceptor ligands, like say for example, what I can do, I can take like this one PF3, right? And I can take PME3. You can take any examples. Okay, so when these ligands are present, actually they increases the acidity. They increases the acidity of transition metal hydrides. So for example, right guys, you can see here, say this is my complex HCO CO whole thrice. I am having PF3 here. There is no problem in that. And then I am having my next complex, the same complex, but the substitution is different on phosphorus. Now say I am having PPH3. Okay, triphenyl phosphine. So what I can do, I can remove this phosphine here from here. Actually you can go and search the sigma donor ligands. So it will actually little confusing. I'm writing phosphine here and I'm giving you the example of the triphenyl phosphine here. So better to remove here. Okay, remove this phosphine from the first point where sigma, from sigma donor, right? And then you're having, say, this HCOCO whole thrice, and this is PME3, right? Say you have these examples and you have to decide the acidity of them. Then what you think actually, which one is acidic actually? I'm telling you, this compound actually behaves as the strong base. This compound behaves as strong base, while this particular compound actually behaves as the strong acid. Strong acid. So what is the reason? See, this is the most acidic in nature, followed by this one, while this one is almost basic in nature. How I can explain this thing? So guys, I'm giving you the one example. Say this is my cobalt and this is hydrogen. Clear? And these are my 3 carbonyls. Of course, they are the pi acidic. They will attract the electron density towards themselves, making this weaker, right? And when this bond is weak, it should be more acidic. Okay, but you can focus here. This is phosphorus, and 3 methyls are here. Me, Me, and Me. Okay, these 3 are here. So this phosphorus is having the lone pair, right? Electron density. So it will donate electron to this one. Right, when it will donate electron density to this one, that means the polarity actually will change, right? And when the polarity changes, then it would be difficult to actually remove that hydrogen from here. But in that case, you can see these 3 methyl will also push the electron density towards phosphorus, and this phosphorus is having more electron density. That means the pi back bonding would be high in that case. And when this happens actually, then this hydrogen you cannot remove as H positive. So it will not behave as acid at all. It will behave as the base. When it comes to this particular compound, so I am writing this also. Say this is H, this is CO, and my 3 carbonyls are here. And one is, you can see F, F, and F. 3 fluorines are here. You know the fluorine is actually having the very high minus I effect. See, these methyls are having plus I effect, and this fluorine is having minus I effect. So they will actually attract the electron density towards themselves. Okay, that means the when electron density comes here, it will pull the electron density from here. That means the polarity of this bond decreases, and when the polarity of this bond decreases, it is actually quite easy to remove that hydrogen from here as proton. So it is a strong acid, while this is the intermediate acid. So this is the acidity order which you should remember, right? Then this is very, very important. Okay guys, so these are the acidic properties, and you may have the one or two one question in your CSIR net or in the gate examination. Very important, right? So these are the some of the properties we should know. Okay guys, so one of the very important property actually I have missed in my lecture, so I have to add that particular property, that is the thermal stability, right? Thermal stability. So basically what happens, these actually transition metal carbonyl hydrides, say they are monomeric in nature all. Say when they are monomeric in nature, so they are actually the volatile. Usually they are the volatile, and they very readily decompose to give the hydrogen and the metal carbonyl, right? So if you keep them keep these compounds on at high temperature, and what will happen, actually they will lose the hydrogen from here. Okay, and after the removal of the hydrogen, you will get your metal carbonyls. Okay, so if you want to stabilize these transition metal carbonyl hydrides, so what you can do, you can actually provide them the environment of carbonyls, right? Carbon monoxide environment you can provide, and you can keep this compound at low temperature. If you keep these compounds in low temperature and in the environment or atmosphere of the carbon monoxide, then they would be stable. At high temperature and without the CO environment, they will decompose to give the hydrogen and the metal carbonyls. One thing, and another thing, when you move down the group, like right here, I can write in that manner. When you move down the group, then the thermal stability increases for them, right? So see, this is actually less thermally stable, and this rhenium complex would be very, very high thermally stable. So you should keep in mind that particular trend. Okay, when you move down the group, then the thermal stability increases, right? So this thing actually I have to add, which I forgot actually. Now we can go for the sum of the reactions and the applications of the metal carbonyl hydrides. So applications. Applications of metal carbonyl hydrides. Okay, so from here you can take, say I am having my anionic hydrides. If I'm having the anionic hydrides, right? So in that case, they would be actually the H negative donor. They will donate the H negative. Okay, and when they are actually donating the H negative, so they are actually behaving just like your sodium borohydride or your lithium aluminum hydride. So that means they are actually behaving as the reducing agent. So you can reduce the different species, and you can utilize this particular property in synthesizing the variety of the organic compound. Like, so you can synthesize the alkanes, synthesis of alkanes from the metal hydride, synthesis of the alkanes, right? So you can take the alkyl halide, okay, and you may take the one of the anionic metal carbonyl hydride, okay, negative is there, and then it will provide hydrogen to this one, then it would be H, and your X Fe CO4 negative. So what you have synthesized? You have synthesized alkane from here. So it's a reduction actually. Okay. And then say you are having this particular compound. Say you are having the acid halides. Okay. And then you can take this particular complex HCrCO5 negatively charged. So what will happen, this chlorine will get knocked out from here, and then you will have RC double bond OH, because this hydrogen is provided by this particular hydride, and you know this compound is the aldehyde, and plus you will have this Cl Cr CO5 negative. So alkanes along with the alkanes, your aldehyde synthesis is also there. So that's why these organometallic compounds are very, very important, since we can utilize these hydrides or these organometallic compound to form the different ones, right? And now I am going to explain a very important reaction for the examination point of view for CSIR NET or GATE. Very important, right? Very important. The insertion reactions. Insertion reactions. So I generally write the reactions as the RXins. Okay. So what you can take, say these are the Ln ligands. L stands for the ligands, N is the number of the ligands, and this is the metal and this is the hydrogen. So this is the, and this ligand is what actually, this is carbonyl. Okay. So L is the carbonyl here. Okay. So this is your metal carbonyl hydrides. And what you can do, you can react this with carbon monoxide, you can react with this carbon dioxide, then you can react with your amine derivative, you can react this with double bond, you can react with this triple bond to get the multiple compounds, right? Multiple organic compound, multiple compounds, right? Say for example, if you have, say I'm having Ln MH. So I'm writing this one. You can replace this with cobalt, you can replace with 4 carbonyls, you can replace with the chromium, you can replace with the 5 carbonyls, you can do anything, right? Search your, go through your textbook and find what you can do here. And say I'm reacting with this, this is with double bond. So this is CH2, this is double bond CH2. There is no problem in that. You know, metal in that case is positive, this is negative. So what will happen? This pi electron density will attack on this particular metal, and this H along with the electron pair will attack on this carbon, not on this particular carbon with H negative. See this one, electron density will go here, then this will come here. Okay, fine, there is no problem. And then you will have Ln M. Now this CH2 get connected with this metal, so you can write CH2 here. This is single bond CH2, and this hydrogen gets connected with this one. So this compound you can prepare. It is actually Ln CH2 CH3. So this is one compound you can prepare. Similarly, for example, you can write LMH, and say you are having C triple bond O. You are reacting this with carbonyl actually. Okay, so again what will happen, the electron density would attack on this metal because it is electron deficient, less electron negative, and this hydrogen along with the electron pair will attack on this particular oxygen, and then you will have your compound Ln MC double bond OH. So again you can see this derivative we have produced, and then you can go for some other examples also, like I am having my Ln MH, carbon dioxide, say I am having C double bond O and C double bond O. So what will happen? So you may use either this part of the carbonyl, this part of the carbon dioxide, this carbonyl of the carbon dioxide, or you can use this carbonyl of the carbon dioxide. This will not make any difference actually. Say this pi electron density would attack on this, and this hydrogen along with the electron will attack on this one. So what would be the product? Ln, and now this is the metal, and this metal gets connected with this carbon, and double bond oxygen is there. You can write in that manner. This would convert it into the single bond, and one hydrogen will move from here to here. So you can produce this compound also. So guys, you can see the variety of reactions are there to explain the things actually. And similarly, if you want, then you can write one more reaction, okay, and say, see, variety of reactions are there, and you can go through your textbook. Say for example, I'm having this particular Ln MH, and you are reacting, say, this with CH2 negative, single bond N, triple bond N with a positive charge, right? Say this compound is there, right? This one, CH2N2, clear? So what will happen actually, this negative will take this hydrogen as a positively charged species, and this electron density will move here, and when this happens you will have LNM negative plus CH3 N positive triple bond N. You may have this compound, and finally what happened, this negatively charged species will grab this methyl, and this lone pair, this bond will go to this one, and then you will have your product. See, nitrogen will remove from here, N2, and then you will have LNMCH3. So you have synthesized this particular compound. So there are various kinds of the reaction which you can do, right? Say you can react this compound with CH2 also. So carbon double bond sulfur, carbon double bond sulfur, it is just like this one. So you can react with this one to get another compound. So these are some of the important reactions of your, some applications of your transition metal carbonyl hydrides. And say then there comes certain things, the bonding in the transition metal carbonyl hydrides. Bonding modes, right? So how you can take this bonding mode? Say for example, I am having my this particular, say this is metal again, and one hydrogen is linked here. So in that case, this hydrogen, actually this hydride is providing 2 electron. So this is the 2 electron system, and this bond is connecting the 2 centers, so it is also 2C. So this particular complex or this bonding mode is known as 2-centered 2-electron bonding mode, and it is a terminal one. In that case, you can see the hydrogen is terminal in nature. And see, you may have that this hydrogen has the bridged hydrogen also. Say for example, you can take this one mu H, and you want to explain the bonding in the 3-centered 2-electron bond. So in that case, see, bridge is there, that means the hydrogen would present as the bridge between the 2 metals. So what you can do, you can write one metal here, another metal here, and you can take this hydrogen here and make a bridge between them. Okay, so again you can see here how many centers are there. 1, 2, 3. 3 centers are there, that's why 3C, and this hydride will provide pair of electrons, so again 2 electrons. So if you draw the different structure, different bonding modes and different bridges, which is the bridge which connect the 2 metals and more than 2 metals, the number of the electrons would always remain same, because hydride will provide a pair of electrons only, and what the thing which actually change is what the centers actually. Say for example, I am having say mu 3H, okay. So it should be actually say 4-centered 2 electron. So how you can write? Say one metal is there, another metal is there, and third metal is there, and this is the hydrogen. So you can connect this hydrogen with this metal, and with this metal. Okay. So how many centers are there? Center number 1, center number 2, center number 3, center number 4, 4-centered. And again only 2 electrons would be provided by the hydrogen, that is the hydride. That's why it is the 2-electron, 4-centered 2-electron system. And if you want, then you can connect all of them. Similarly, you may have say 6 bridges are there. So for 6 bridges, that means the hydrogen will form the 6 bridges. So in that case, when 6 is there, then you can write the 7-centered 2 electrons. So what you are observing here? In that case, when actually say how you can write this particular structure. However, I have actually discussed this particular example when I have discussed the interstitial hydrogen interstitial hydride formation in case of the clusters carbonyl, right? So in that case, say 6 centered are there. So what you can do, you can make a hexagon here, and you can write metal everywhere. Not everywhere, but on the 6 corners, right? And then you can put the hydrogen in the interstitial sites. So how many centers are there? Center 1 is the hydrogen and 6 metals are there. So it's a 7-centered 2 electron. If you want, then you can connect them just like that. Okay. and then this would get connected and these three would get connected, then this will result. So this is the bonding mode. So guys, whatever I have explained in this lecture as what actually the synthesis of your metal carbonyl hydrates in detail actually, and then I have discussed few of the acidic properties. However, the trends are not very clear for the acidic properties in the literature also, right? And then I have discussed the bonding mode, and in such a reaction is very, very important. Now the last things actually which comes in that case, the spectral properties. The spectral properties. Spectral properties of hydrides. Spectral properties of transition metal carbonyl hydrides. Guys, in that case you can see here, as I'm saying that this hydrogen is negatively charged. That means the electron density is there. That means this hydrogen is very highly shielded. Right? If you have followed my NMR spectroscopy lecture, then you must be aware about the shielding and the de-shielding and all the concepts of the NMR spectroscopy, right? And right now I am assuming that you guys are familiar with the basics of the NMR spectroscopy, so I am not going to explain the things in very much detail. If you want to learn the NMR spectroscopy, then you can write in the YouTube NMR spectroscopy by tetrahedron chemistry classes, then you will get your search result and then you can go through, right? So due to the electron density which is there on the hydrogen atom, it is highly shielded. It is much highly shielded. That means this chemical shift for this one, for these hydrogens, are negative chemical shift. Generally your organic protons, they resonate from 0 to 12 or to 14 ppm, but in case of the transition metal carbonyl hydrides, this shift is negative, and it is much negative. That means it goes from -7 to -60 ppm, right? Then TMS, tetramethylselene. You know that tetramethylselene resonates at the 0 ppm, and see on the right hand side of the spectrum you will never have the signal, but in case of the transition metal carbonyl hydrates you will have the signals on the right hand side of the TMS also. So they are very shielded. However guys, this NMR spectroscopy is not very not only the NMR spectroscopy, but IR spectroscopy also is not very much useful in case of the transition metal carbonyl hydrides. One more thing which is very important. You may have this particular question in your GATE and in your or in your NET examinations. Whenever your transition metal carbonyl hydrates are subjected to the NMR spectroscopy, that in that case actually the NMR signal would be brought. This is something very important you guys should note. Broad NMR signal of hydride. Now what is the reason for this one? The only reason to get the very broad signal in case of your transition metal hydrides, see this hydrogen is fluxonial in that case. Fluxonial means it can move here and there. So in the molecule this hydrogen can move in every places, and when it moves in the molecule in the every places, the electron density actually changes every now and then. And then the NMR instrument get confused and it will give a very broad NMR signal. So it is very important for you to note that the hydrogen in the hydrides is fluxonial, right? And it moves here and there, which actually changes the electronic environment and which gives the broad signal. One thing is very important. And another thing is that however you can predict the bonding type of the bonding in the metal carbonyl hydrides with the help of the NMR spectroscopy, especially from the coupling, JJ coupling, right? So when you have the coupling, that means essentially the bond should be covalent. If the bond is the ionic, there is no coupling. And in the transition metal carbonyl hydrides, this coupling actually observed. That means the bond is primarily covalent in nature. This you should remember, a very important thing, right? So and then you can go for the IR spectroscopy also. IR spectroscopy, you know the function of the IR spectroscopy. You can find the say stretching bands for every bond present in it. Now in transition metal carbonyl hydrides, you are interested only in the in the bond which is formed between the metal and the hydrogen, right? And see what you can do. very weak signal you will observe in that case. I'll come to that point why we observe the weak signal in that case. And obviously this should come from 1600 to 2000 centimeter inverse. If you recall your carbon hydrogen bond, so your carbon hydrogen stretching actually comes around 29,000, sorry 2900 actually, right? Since this metal is quite heavy in nature, right, when it is quite heavy in nature, you can apply the Hooke's law, and when you apply the Hooke's law, then you will find, okay, the resonance would be would be in the lower side. That's why it is actually resonating at to 1600 to 2200 centimeter inverse compared to your CH stretching, which actually appears at 2900 centimeter inverse. One thing. And then you can find, see, another important thing is what? Carbonyl. This carbonyl is also IR active. And this carbonyl actually is stretching, this C double bond O stretching also occurs at this position, 1600 centimeter inverse to 2120 centimeter inverse. Okay, so you can see these can overlap. So if they can overlap, then it is very, very difficult for us to actually differentiate between the signals, whether it, see, we cannot tell whether this particular signal is coming due to this metal hydrogen stretch or due to this carbonyl stretch. This is the problem with the IR spectroscopy associated with the these metal carbonyl hydrides. This is something very, very important which you guys should know. Right, that's why the NMR spectroscopy as well as your IR spectroscopy is of not very much use when it comes to the transition metal carbonyl hydrides. However, you can go through your textbook, you can solve your previous year CSIR net or the GATE examination question papers, where you can find the different varieties of the question and you can learn some of them. Okay guys, so this is all about the metal carbonyl hydrides, their synthesis, their acidic nature, their reactions, their spectral properties, their bonding modes. I hope you like the lecture. Okay, so that's it for today guys. Thank you very much.